Hey there. Welcome to the CMMC Compliance Guide podcast. I'm Stacey.
And I'm Brooke.
From Justice IT Consulting, where we help businesses like yours navigate CMMC and NIST 800-171 compliance. We're hired guns getting companies fast-tracked to compliance, but today we're here to give you all the secrets for free. So if you want to tackle it yourself, you're equipped to do so. Let's dive into today's episode and keep your business on track. Today we're breaking down the Cyber AB's May 2026 Town Hall, a deep dive on external service providers, ecosystem updates, new leadership, and marketplace news. So let's dive right into it. All right, Brooke, it looks like they talked about some key program level updates from this Town Hall. Could you enlighten us with what they mentioned?
Absolutely. And first I want to kind of apologize because it's been a little busy around here, and so this town hall update is a little late coming out. The June one's fixing to come around. So, but a couple of program level, really, they have a new COO there, Matt Newfield. He's been in the ecosystem for at least 5 years. So there's a new person there. They also, I guess this is kind of program level, but they talked about the PMO added some new FAQs. One of the ones is on joint ventures, and joint ventures, really it's more of a clarification of they didn't change anything. This, just as these FAQs are, they're just clarifications. But so talked about joint ventures. So basically, joint ventures, unless a joint venture changes the way a company does business. So you already got certified as, for instance, 2 or 3 different OSCs with different cage codes and different UIDs. Unless the joint venture changes the way they do business or the scope of anything, then everything will just fall under each of the cage codes, each of the companies that's under that joint venture. The joint venture itself doesn't necessarily need a new cage code or a UID, unless they're changing the structure of the business, and that's how they're going to start trying to win business, or unless they are changing the scope of something. So, and really, even then, changing the scope, that kind of depends on how you're going to do business and how services are going to be provided. That's the big old giant it depends answer. But it's basically going to stay the same. Nothing's going to change there. The joint venture doesn't necessarily need a cage code if the businesses underneath it are still doing business as they always have.
What's the status on the OSC certification badge and FedRAMP moderate equivalency?
Yeah, so so for everybody wants a way to put on their website, put on their LinkedIn, put on all their social medias, on their email signatures, I guess, whatever. Anyway, they want a way to advertise that, hey, we are CMMC level 2 certified, right? And I understand that. We want to advertise that as well, but you can say that, and you can say it all you want, but there's nothing official that you can put on your website. The certificate that you get is not public. They don't want you to display that. So, but they are working on some sort of certification badge. I'm thinking something sort of like what CCPs and CCAs have, through a badging system. So it's more official and can be relied upon. When you see that, that's actually somebody who's actually got a certification. So they're working on that. They're trying to figure out all the details, all the ramifications and everything of that. As far as FedRAMP moderate equivalency goes, as y'all probably know, they're changing. They've changed some language around the FedRAMP program, and they're getting ready and rolling out the FedRAMP 20X program. But now the DOW still calls things FedRAMP moderate authorized. But if you look at the FedRAMP marketplace, everything there has switched over from authorized to certified. So now you're certified, and you're certified with gosh, I don't have a note here of it, but it's a a letter designation, a level after that. So FedRAMP, FedRAMP certified level A, B, C, or D, right? C is going to be moderate. D is going to be high. A is going to be what used to be FedRAMP ready, I believe. So anyway, but now it's changed a little bit. But as far as FedRAMP moderate equivalency goes, the DoD has not changed that. That is or DOW, excuse me, Department of War. They've not changed that. It's not going to change. It's going to stay moderate equivalency, right? And that has a specific meaning that the Department of War specified, and it's laid out, and you can look it up and find it. But basically, if you're going to be equivalent, you've got to have a 3PO come over and do your certification for your do your review for your FedRAMP. Make sure you meet all the controls, and then they sign off on it, and you get blessed. So that's kind of how it works.
The cyber AB called ESP is one of the most misunderstood parts of CMMC. What do contractors need to know in regards to that?
Well, what contractors need to know is that they're the OSC, the contractor or subcontractor, whatever you may be, they're the ones that are ultimately accountable for this, right? They're accountable to know about their ESP and understand what they're being provided and what they're supposed to, what the OSC themselves are supposed to do, right? So, do you have an ESP, right? What is an ESP, and do you have one? So you're paying them, so you ought to have some sort of agreement in place. They're either doing security controls for you, or they may be handling CUI for you, or something like that, right? So the second part is first part is, do you have an ESP? You should know if you have an external service provider is what an ESP is. So the second one is there are two kinds of ESPs. One is a CSP, so an external service provider that is a CSP, which is a cloud service provider. In a minute, I think we'll get to it, but there's 5 key things you look for to see if they're a cloud service provider. And if they're not a CSP, then they're a non-CSP ESP, so which is the term they use. So anyway, is your ESP a CSP? Do they what are they actually doing for you? The third thing is, do they handle any CUI of yours, or is it just SPD, security protection data? So if they handle any CUI, if they process, store, or transmit any CUI, then you're going to have to go back to the whole FedRAMP thing and figure out if they're FedRAMP moderate authorized or FedRAMP moderate equivalent. And don't take their word for it. If they tell you are, go, great, that's wonderful. Give me the paperwork. I need that CRM or SRM, and I need your FedRAMP number, and I need the whatever it's called, the authorization number, and I need all that paperwork to prove, so I can show an assessor, yes, they really are. Yes, I have used Microsoft 365 GCC, and believe me, trust me, they're FedRAMP moderate or FedRAMP, whichever it is anyway, authorized, and so they'll the assessor will say, that's great, but where's the paperwork? And you can say, well, it's Microsoft, don't you know? They're not going to take your word for it. They're not going to just take anybody's word for it. They want to see that paperwork. So always get the paperwork, no matter who it is. So it doesn't matter if they're well known or not.
So in tandem to like what we were talking about with CSPs, how does a contractor tell the difference between an MSP and a CSP?
A CSP again, and I think here the next question we'll go over the 5 things, but are you a cloud provider, much like Microsoft or Amazon or Google or something like that, where you have services that are, you can automatically provision? That would be a cloud service provider, a CSP. If you're not a CSP, then you're just an ESP. So your MSP, managed services provider, is probably an ESP and not a CSP. Though I'd be I'd be surprised if there were very many MSPs out there that were actually CSPs. There's really not going to be. They may have some service that's classified that way, but for the most part, they're going to be an ESP. So the requirements are different for just an MSP or whether they lean over that line into a CSP. So, if they're selling you a CMMC compliance in a box type solution, they really have to think, does it fall under the category of a CSP? If it does, that's a different bar you have to meet, especially if you're handling CUI. It's a different bar you have to meet, which would be a compliance in the box solution most of the time. But there's a lot higher bar you have to meet for that. So you've got to think about all that stuff when you're scoping this out and where you're choosing providers or evaluating your current provider to see if what they're doing for you will work for you or not for your compliance program.
So, Brooke, how does an OSC determine whether their ESP is actually engaged in cloud computing?
That's a good question. There's two things here. One, there may be cloud services that they have that they offer. And so those services may be, fall under the CSP category for the most part, but if they don't handle CUI, then there's it's a little bit different for you. So there are 5 categories really, and you go look at the NIST 800 145. This will help out. But one is on-demand self-service. So like Microsoft, you can go click, add license, easy deal. Spool up a virtual machine, create, choose your settings, go, broad network access. The service is accessible all over the internet through standard devices. 3, it's resource pooling. So, not any one of these necessarily, but all 5 of them. So resource pooling. So are your customer like Microsoft email? You're in the cloud, which means you're on a bunch of data center computers of Microsoft's, and it's just one big environment, right? So that's resource pooling. Rapid elasticity. So can you provision up or down, pretty quick? And a measured service. So is there something that's measuring the amount of service that you have? So you get pieces of that with most MSPs, but what really most MSPs, you're not going to have on-demand self-service, and you're not going to have that rapid elasticity. So you'll have to email or call your MSP and say, hey, we're adding a new server and I need you to back it up. Well, that requires provisioning from the MSP, or hey, we've got 10 new computers and we need you to manage them. Well, that's going to require a bunch of provisioning, whether most of it's automated or not. That's going to require something from your MSP to kick that off, right? So you have to meet those to be called to be a CSP.
Did the town hall cover anything new in the broader ecosystem?
Yes. So there's a cyber engagement forum. It's launching monthly meetings for RPOs starting in July. That same structure already exists for C3PAOs. They meet. In fact, I didn't even really realize that because we're not a C3PAO. I was talking to the one that did our assessment, and we were discussing some particulars about how assessments go and all that kind of fun stuff. And he said, well, in our monthly meetings, and I was like, monthly meetings, what? So there'll be monthly meetings. They're going to spool up and get going, and then OSC and practitioner meetings will follow that. The other thing is, so if you've seen the Cyber AB marketplace, it is not the easiest thing to search through, and I'll avoid disparaging the Cyber AB because they've had a lot to do, and I've done a lot with a limited budget and a limited staff, so I get it. But the marketplace leaves a lot to be desired. So, but a new one's coming, and it's their marketplace 2.0, I guess, and so it should be. They showed us what it would show us what it could look like, and looks like it'll be very helpful. It's been built through Ramp Exchange with their help, and there will be opportunities. I don't know exactly. They talked about maybe some advertising or connecting, or I don't really know how that's necessarily going to work, and I don't think they do either. But they talked about maybe some new opportunities along with that. But they're looking at making that marketplace better, and what they showed, it would be built on what's already built out for a different program is looks like it's very helpful.
All right, so what's the biggest thing a contractor should walk away from this town hall?
So the biggest thing really is that I mentioned it. I don't know how much I emphasize it, but the burden is on the OSC. It's not on your SP. And it may be, you may depend heavily on your ESP, which may be your MSP. You probably don't depend that heavily on your CSP, but there's too many 3-letter acronyms. So, but you may very well depend very heavily on your MSP to help you with your whole broader compliance program, or they may just handle just the security part of it, right? So, but even if you lean heavily on them or another provider to help you meet these controls, or keep your documentation up or whatever it may be, you still have the burden of making sure it's all working right and it's all working as it should. Everything that is written down, all your policies, procedures and plans, what you've defined or what somebody has defined is actually what's being done. And then can you prove it, right? And so you're accountable for that. The OSC is accountable for that, not your MSP. They may take a heavy burden for you, but you're still accountable, and you're where the rubber meets the road. So they made that absolutely abundantly clear that it's not. It is up to your MSP to tell you what you're doing and provide that responsibility matrix. But you've got to look at that responsibility matrix and make sure you understand that responsibility matrix, not just that, hey, I got one here from my MSP, I'm good. No, you got to look at that thing, and you got to make sure that, the MSP is doing what they say they're doing.
All right, guys, before we wrap things up, we wanted to tell you about something that directly connects with what we covered today. We're co-hosting a free live webinar with Prevail and FutureFeed on Tuesday, July 21st at 12 p.m. Central Time. It's called Whose Control Is It Anyway? And it's built around exactly what Brooke was talking about: shared responsibility, customer responsibility matrices, and figuring out which controls you actually own versus which your vendors are supposed to be covering. If you're a manufacturer or contractor in the defense supply chain trying to protect your DoD contracts, this is for you.
Absolutely.
We're going to walk through how to read a CRM line by line, identify where responsibility actually lands, and close the gaps before an assessor finds them for you. It's free, it's live, and if you can't make it in person, you'll get the recording just for registering. So head over to cmmccomplianceguide.com/podcast to grab your seat. All right. If you have questions about what we covered, reach out to us. We're here to help fast track your compliance journey. Text, email, or call in your questions and we'll answer them for free here on the podcast. You can find our contact info at cmmccomplianceguide.com. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay compliant, stay secure, and make sure to subscribe.